So, yeah, good morning. I'll officially call to order the regular meeting of Coachella Valley Water District Board of Directors, March 14th, 2023, here in Palm Desert. Oh, we don't have the introductory comments anymore. Oh my gosh. That is wonderful in a way. It made life easy though, didn't it? Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so amazing. A roll call, please.
Yes, good morning, President Powell.
Here.
Vice President Estrada, we will note his arrival for the record. Director Bianco.
Here.
Director Aguilar.
Here.
And Director Nelson will be absent for today's meeting.
Right.
And Director Estrada just joined us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
We just barely started. All right, do we have any additions, deletions, or adjustments to our agenda today?
I think the only thing we were going to adjust is there is no reason to talk about the Howard Jarvis versus CVWD lawsuits in closed session.
Right, so
we'll drop
we will
those.
just not do those. Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment at this time? No? Are we still taking public comments over Zoom?
Mr. President, yes, so I'm checking that now. So Zoom is still available for members of the public and consultants and or staff should they have a need to be via Zoom. And of course for board members under the two certain circumstances. But at this time, we do not have any members of the public on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We'll move along. This brings us to the consent calendar, items 5A through F. I didn't see anything.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Right. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed 4-0. On to 7A. This is recommendation to approve support for Vice President Estrada to the Riverside East Area LAFCO seat. And actually, I have a ballot here too that we're going to fill out. I guess this is an action item, so we're going to take action. I move that. Do we normally do it this way?
No. Last year, you and I discussed it. I made the recommendations. You approved the recommendations, and then we informed the board after the vote was taken. This time, because we have a candidate on the board, we thought it might be an opportunity to do it in open session.
Okay, fair enough. Director Estrada, did you have anything?
I just want to thank the board for their support and CVWD for their support. Communication staff for helping me put a message out and putting out a letter and a video. So thank you for that. As I mentioned at the last meeting, my interest in serving in LAFCO is to just continue to have a presence there. I think historically, LAFCO in this side of the valley has been represented by a water district. And so with some changes that are happening in LAFCO now, there's an opportunity for us to continue that. I think in the past we've expressed maybe the need for us to get involved, and so this seemed to be the right opportunity to do so. Also, I wanted to mention that I have been in contact with the Vice President of Western Municipal Water District. His name is Steve Corona. I was in conversations with their president, Philip Paul, I think is his name. And so from very early on, we talked about kind of supporting each other. And they actually took a vote a few weeks ago in support of their candidate, Mr. Corona, and myself. And they also put out a letter after they took board action, kind of just saying that they've supported their candidate and myself. So with that, I'd like to also make a recommendation that we support Mr. Corona, and in the same manner, also put out a letter after we've taken vote that the district is in support of those two candidates. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to correct a minor correction, Steve Corona is a member of the Eastern Municipal Water District, not Western.
Yeah, so it's the western seat on LAFCO, but it's the Eastern Municipal Water District.
I must have said that wrong.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember how you said it, but yeah, it's a little bit. That's cool. And we did receive a letter of support from Riverside County Farm Bureau for Mr. Corona
As well.
as well. Yeah, which is kind of cool because actually, didn't Steve Pastore used to be the head of the Riverside County Farm Bureau?
Yes, and he is currently the alternate on the West region, so, I think
And the way this works is you can rank your votes. We were just going to do a circle number 1 for Castello and leave the others blank. And I could do the same thing for Mr. Corona. Unless we want to do a second. I know we had some action for some support potentially for Carol
Brady.
Gonzalez Brady. So I could circle number 2 for her or just leave it blank. I don't know.
I believe it just, if there's not enough votes, then the votes go to the second candidate. So there is a reason why you circle, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm okay if you circle number 2.
For Carol Gonzalez Brady. All right. Okay. Well, why don't we take action on that, Jeff? Does that sound reasonable?
Well, you have an agenda item to support Vice President Estrada, and then you have in front of you a ballot, Mr. President, to vote for the candidates and to rank them. And the reason you rank them is they don't want to have to go back and do another election. So if the
Right.
first number ones don't get a majority, one of those number ones, then they move up from there, take off the lowest one until you get a majority. So I'd recommend you take action on the resolution to support Vice President, and then give direction to the President of the Board to rank the rest based on the direction you just gave. But the reason to rank them, it doesn't hurt your number one choice to rank 2, 3.
I'm not sure.
My understanding of the weighted voting was that if you had one candidate that had a 1 and then a 2 on a different ballot, and then you had another candidate that had a 2 and then a 1 on a different ballot, they're equally tied because it's a weighted vote.
Well, I just went through this last time with another client, and there is an explanation in the LAFCO documentation, and they even give an example of a fictional water district and how that ranking works. It's not weighted, it's based on, you rank them, and then if all the number ones, there's not a majority, then, okay, you take it's explained in the
Yeah.
documentation.
They sent
It's complicated.
They sent a mock scenario.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is you have to win with the majority of the vote, which I think that means you need to have at least like 20 some ballots, I believe was the number.
It's like 26.
And so if no one gets a majority, then what happens is they eliminate the last person, and then that person's first vote goes to the candidates that are remaining, right? That district's first vote goes to, and it keeps doing that until you get someone that has a majority.
Water district.
I don't see how voting for the other people helps you, though.
So we have the.
No, don't vote for the other people.
That's what I'm saying.
No, no.
Because if there's 2 left after the first cut, then that second vote might hurt you.
Well,
Yeah.
and so the board clerk has pulled up what I was trying to explain in the hypothetical.
And I can read it either the ballot counting process, which says, the first choice marked on each
gonna
ballot
help
shall
you.
be counted. If any candidate receives a majority of the first choices, that candidate should be declared elected. If no candidate receives a majority of first choices, the candidate who received the fewest first choices shall be eliminated, and each vote cast for that candidate shall be transferred to the next ranked candidate on that voter's ballot. Does that make sense? If after this transfer of votes, any candidate has a number of votes constituting a majority, that candidate shall be declared elected.
So the majority would be 28
So
out of 55.
So the candidate that got the fewest number 1 votes
Their votes transferred.
Their votes transfer to whoever voted number 2 for that losing candidate,
Shouldn't put anybody in there.
for that losing, so
I-
let's leave it blank. It's
That is correct.
The way you have it,
all right. So is there a motion to vote for Vice President Estrada and
And to direct the president
Direct.
to rank.
us to vote for Corona in the second in the Western region?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passed unanimously. All right, I think we're good.
and we also have some direction to send out that letter, right?
Oh, and we're going to send a letter of
Of support.
support for Mr. Corona. Did you have that already?
I mean, that's not on the agenda, so I mean, that was why I was trying to give it as more of the board directing the
Yeah.
president to do it, so.
Well, we'll do that too.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a letter?
I think you could use the same letter that they used at their board, which basically, I would say 95% of the letter talks about their candidate, and then they just say, by the way, we're also supporting CVWD's candidate, so you could do the same thing.
We'll use that.
There you go.
Thank you.
And so
All right, we'll
that's
do
what
that.
you're doing, because you just direct the president to rank
Right.
him number 2.
Yes,
we'll do
so
that.
it's a fact.
All right.
It's just stating a
We'll
fact.
do that. Thank you. Good luck. 7B, this is a property acquisition for the Avenue 66 transmission main. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning. Yes, so this BAI request is to acquire an easement from the County of Riverside for a portion of the Avenue 66 water transmission main, part of the Phase B. And it, based on an appraisal and fair market value, we're requesting to compensate the county $10,500 for the pipeline easement. It's an approximate 3,500 square foot area. And the cost of the easement acquisition will be paid for using grant funds.
Okay.
Sounds easy enough.
Yeah, it does. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed 4-0. C. Don't move, Carrie.
I'm staying here.
Go ahead and take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in June of 2021, we entered into a design contract with Dudek to design Phase 2 of the Avenue 66 transmission main, as well as to acquire easements for this portion of the pipeline. Since that time, we've decided to consolidate the Phase 1B plans and the Phase 2 designs into one bid package. We've also been working to acquire the easements from the Torres Martinez tribe and Alatis, so that's a little more extensive of a process. The easement packages are currently with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, but DUDEC is still having to answer questions and provide backup data to get us to the finish line on those easements. So this BAI request is to increase DUDEC's contract by approximately $50,000, and that will cover them to combine the Phase 1B and Phase 2 design plans into one bid package. It'll provide some additional support on these easement acquisitions, and then they need to incorporate the design of the on-site connection to one of the mobile home parks within the plans. And again, the costs related to this request will be paid for using the grant funds. Happy to answer any questions.
No, do we have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah, good,
All right, thank
clean
you.
deal. We got to vote, but yeah.
Carrie, then I just want to thank you for getting us this far. I know that it's a super complex project involving the tribe, Alatis, the BIA, and so thank you and your team for everything that you're doing here.
Okay, well, thank you for your help, too.
So on the vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed 4-0. Okay. We have D, This is the amended and restated employment agreement with our general manager.
Yes, and good morning, President Powell,
Morning.
Board of the Directors, staff, and constituents. Before you is a recommendation for the district to enter into an amended and restated employment agreement with James M. Barrett. The district entered into an employment agreement with the current general manager, James M. Barrett, on November 12th, 2014. Terms and conditions of that employment agreement remain in effect, excepting annual amendments that have been approved by the district's board of directors. The most recent of these amendments was executed on February 22nd, 2022. In an effort to bring the employment agreement up to date with the decertification of the Coachella Valley Water District Managers Association and the recent adoption of the district's defined benefit and compensation plan for confidential at-will unrepresented employees, an amended and restated employment agreement between the district and the general manager has been constructed. There were certain negotiated terms of the employment agreement. Those terms were the term itself, base compensation and cost of living adjustment, performance incentive factors and criteria as it relates to incentive-related compensation, the establishment of a non-qualified deferred compensation plan, an assignment of a district vehicle or a monthly vehicle allowance utilizing a private vehicle for business purposes, and termination without cause regarding severance applicability. If the board elects to enter into the amended and restated employment agreement, there's a certain procedure that will need to happen by the president of the board of directors, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding this employment agreement.
Thank you.
And if wished, I could make that recitation on behalf of the board president.
Yes, thank you, Jeff.
Under section 54953C3 of the government code, which is part of the Brown Act, the board is required to make the following oral report that summarizes the proposed final actions as to compensation. 1, the base salary would be $345,505 per annum. The general manager would be eligible for a discretionary bonus of between 0 and 10% based on criteria developed on an annual basis, which includes the criteria for 2023, which is part of the agreement. 3, the establishment of a non-qualified deferred compensation plan in an amount not to exceed 10% of base salary and where the amount would be solely contributed by the general manager. And 4, the option of being assigned the use of a district vehicle or a monthly private vehicle allowance in the amount of $1,000.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, I think that's,
There is an interest payment on that contribution.
Right, I was just explaining the general way that contribution, that the deferred compensation plan works, and their details are in the agreement.
Got it.
yep,
Yes, sir.
all right. We have this item. Is there any discussion before or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Good. I think it gets us updated in a good way. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passed 4-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And let's see,
Scott,
we have written communications. There's a paper log here. I don't remember what was on we had 2 items that were both resolved. Let's do board general comments. We'll start with Director Aguilar.
Thank you, John. I just wanted to ask, I'm pretty sure we probably already looked at this, but with these recent bank failures, I'm looking see if Rick's in the room, but, there he is. If I know we have a number of instruments with a variety of banks, and I'm wondering if we've looked at that and are we at risk or where are we?
So we have been working with our investment management companies.
Your mic is on.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So we've done a review earlier this week, and we're not directly invested in any companies that are showing weakness from the regional bank perspective, both the ones that have failed and the ones that have had their stock hit recently. The only exposure we have is actually on the OPEB trust side, and it's probably well less than 1% as part of an index fund. So it's minimal at best.
These regional, I mean, I was just watching First Republic, I think Pac West, they're both up more than 50% today. So it was, if you were lucky enough to buy them yesterday, you did very well. Yeah, but who times that, right? Thank you, Rick. Okay, comments? Director Bianco?
No comments.
All right.
No comments.
I guess I would just say, I thought staff did an amazing job setting up that 120th anniversary of the Bureau. So, I mean, it was a nice event, a nice positive event. And, you know, I think it showed the district and the Bureau in good light. And it also, I think, made a really strong connection between the district's origins, which were essentially an agriculture irrigation district, and the current state of the valley, which is not just agriculture, but there's that, which is important, and then so many other benefits that have flowed from that initial commitment and investment and all that to secure the water, build the canal, build the distribution system, and then fight for our rights for the next, the subsequent 100 years, and we continue to do that. Pretty interesting. I also had a meeting yesterday. Randy Record called me last week and says he's got this reporter from Vox, VOX, not Vox or Fox. V as in Victor, and I've seen them online, news organization that's doing some coverage on the Colorado River, and so I agreed to meet with him, thinking that Randy had vetted him, but I think Randy was just passing him along to me, and I realized that after I agreed to meet with him. But he turned out to be okay. I mean, we'll see what comes out of the piece, but I think his goal was to try to put his feet on the ground in California and get a sense of what effect the lower hydrology on the Colorado River may have on food production, but also I think to understand California's position vis-a-vis the other 6 basin states. And I know he met with Craig Elmore earlier in the day down in Brawley, and he was going to go to Yuma, and it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with, but I guess it's good if you have a reporter you trust. I hope I can trust him, that you can get your message out there. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe we track Vox for a little while until this thing comes out, because I normally don't do that. Let's see. Do we have any board requests for future agenda items? No. Why don't we go into the meetings then? February 28th, I think it was a board meeting day, but also later that day, I was on with the Coachella Valley Irrigated Lands Coalition. Interesting. I think there's a little bit of angst setting in amongst our group that membership is dropping, and sort of the lack of follow-up or enforcement from the regional board is giving people an idea like they don't really need to participate in it. So we're seeing our acres drop off a bit. We're not sure what to do about that, but that obviously creates issues for financially going forward for the organization, because our costs don't change and revenue would drop if we lose members. But anyways, we're working on that. March 3rd, Lake Cahuilla pre-meeting discussion, Director Estrada.
Yeah, I had a meeting with a constituent regarding Lake Cahuilla on the 3rd. this constituent had been requesting a meeting for quite some time. So finally, was able to schedule a meeting, and I had asked certain staff to participate, including Carrie, Dan, and someone from Environmental Services, I forget his name. Solon, who did a great job. So we met just to prepare for the meeting and go over some of the topics that we were going to discuss. And then right after that, we actually had the meeting, and really just focused on what the lake means for us. Talked about why it was built, when it was built, talked about when quagga became an issue in the system, talked about how much we do in order to prevent the quagga from entering the lake. And so got into details related to the quagga, got into details related to the lake kind of acting as a reservoir for a big portion of our distribution for canal water, for our replenishment facility. And so just really used the opportunity to educate this particular constituent who seems to have a big following with folks that like to recreate at the lake. And so that's what we did. We just wanted to share that information so that folks out there who hear about the lake understand that the lake is primarily a Colorado River system asset that we use to deliver water, and recreation, although is important, is secondary to that. So just wanted to use it as an educational opportunity. I think staff did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Then you covered both meetings on the Lakeway, right?
Yes.
Yeah. March 6th, meeting with EPA Regional Coordinator Martha Guzman. Go ahead.
So as you're aware, the EPA Regional Coordinator Martha Guzman paid the Valley a visit on that day. This is part of a repeating. It's supposed to be a quarterly meeting, but I think it's been about more than 6 months since they last came. But this is a group, a regional group that's been put together by EPA. It involves the County of Riverside and their various departments, the Supervisor's Office, the Assembly Member's Office, the State Water Board, the BIA, the tribe, and it's really centered around the issue that's happening in Oasis Mobile Home Park related to the high levels of arsenic that community continues to experience. And so that's how the group came about. As part of that, we've been invited to talk about our particular involvement, not just in Oasis, but in the region. As you know, we have several projects that are kind of being baked around the piers. We're going to build Avenue 66, what you just heard Carrie talk about. And so we have as you know, this Eastern Water Supply Plan. A lot of the projects include projects around that area, and the EPA has identified, I think, about 18 or so additional mobile homes that are out of compliance with the arsenic rule. And in the meantime, Pueblo Unido has gone out there and put these under the sink reverse osmosis filters, but the long-term plan is to consolidate these systems. So those are the types of things that we get invited to talk about and to kind of share those projects, share timelines. And so this was probably about the fourth meeting that we had. There's going to be more meetings. I met Martha and her team for lunch on that day. So she got here about maybe noon. I met her for lunch. I took her to eat some Mexican food at Jalisco's. She really liked it, and so did her team. And then we spent all the afternoon there at the Oasis Elementary School. That meeting was split, kind of a two-part meeting. First part meeting was what they called a closed session, which was just really agency to agency conversations. And then the second session was open to the public, but it was almost a repeat of the first session, but just open to the public. A lot of public did show up, and there was a lot of questions. There were questions about our timelines, and Lorraine, thank you for being there. I think that is something that we are probably going to want to plan for in the future, because there's always a public portion. So thank you for being there. And then after that, we went out because we were there all day from about, I don't know, 3 to about 8. And then after that, Ms. Guzman wanted to have dinner. So I took her and her team to dinner also. And it was great. It was good to speak to them and kind of bond and just kind of form a relationship. The other thing that we talked about, which is kind of off the topic here, but I did share with her that we are planning a big kind of community celebration around the Avenue 66 project. She said she was interested in being invited to that. She suggested that perhaps we should invite Yana Garcia, who's the secretary for Cal EPA. And so she has a good relationship with Yana, and so does our assembly members, so that I actually share that with Joaquin Esquivel, who's the chair of the State Water Board, on the day that we had the celebration for the Bureau of Reclamation. I said, hey, I spoke to Marta, and she mentioned we should invite Yana, and he thought it was a great idea, so we might ask Yana to join us. And I think it'd be good for us to just kind of showcase all the things that we're involved in the Eastern Coachella Valley as it relates to kind of working on this human right to water policy in the state of California. So it was a good day. I enjoyed being with with Marta and learned a lot from her. Thank you.
Excellent. Next, we had the full board at the 120th birthday party for the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. We had Commissioner Tootin there and a number of dignitaries, and it was a plaque-a-thon. I mean, there was plaques for everything from everybody. It was a nice event, as I mentioned. Yeah, Lorraine, thank you for pulling a lot of that together. Let's see, we have, did anyone attend the March 9th DVBA Public Officials Luncheon? I did not. And then yesterday we had the principals meeting with Agua Caliente and Desert Water, and Director Strauder and I were there, along with our mediator, Ramsey Croft. And we also had from the U.S. Chris Watson. I thought it was very helpful for him to be there because he has information that we don't necessarily have. So that was, I think that was a good ad for that one.
And just for reporting purposes, right after our meeting, we had a business lunch meeting.
That's true.
With the Desert Water Agency principals.
That is true. Also a useful time spent. Let's see, listed on the agenda is yesterday's DVBA board meeting. I did not attend that. There wasn't much left of me after the mediation session, so I did. Well, then I had the reporter from Vox after that, and I try not to do the hat trick on CVWD meetings on any days. So I didn't do the DVBA one. Any other meetings we need to report on?
Mr. President, I do have some additional meetings. On the 17th, I had a meet and greet with our new engineering manager, Sabrina, and Director of Engineering, Carrie Oliphant. I wanted to make time to just introduce myself and share a little bit of background on the DAC task force and what we've been doing with that, just to try to make sure that we kind of keep that momentum going. And so that was a great meeting. It was good meeting her. She's, I think in her first 2 weeks, I think she was just absorbing a bunch of information from everyone. So I wish her the best, and I think she's going to be great. On the 27th, I had the LAFCO video shoot with the communications department with Lorraine, Scott, and their team. So that went great. And then on March 2nd, I had the first meeting of the Safer Advisory Group. As I've mentioned before, there's about 4 meetings that are set during the year. And this was the first meeting, which we met via Zoom. I think they're going to do a combination of Zoom and in-person meetings, but this was in Zoom, so those were additional meetings. Thank you.
Okay, any others? Do we have a motion to approve per diem for the meetings reported?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
In a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, passed 4-0. General manager report.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I also want to echo President Powell's comments in appreciation for the efforts that staff went through to prepare for the reclamation event. I thought it was also a very good reflection upon the district. I also want to thank the board for their support in approving the employment agreement that lets me stay here a little bit longer. So thank you all, gentlemen. Then just the routine stuff on COVID. We've got 2 qualifying cases right now. We got 4 folks off work. So far this year, we've had 22 qualifying cases. Last year, 2022, we had 263. Again, we've only had 2 mortalities, and we've had 425 recovered cases altogether. So it does look like things are beginning to wind down, thankfully.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I've got, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Council comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to mention a recent Court of Appeal case involving, it's entitled Riskin versus Downtown LA Property Owner Association. It deals with the Public Records Act. Under the Public Records Act, if a requester goes to court to seek records that the agency has not disclosed, the plaintiff in that case who wanted the records can receive the attorney's fees if they win in that case. In this case, the facts were that the agency did provide pretty much all of the records requested and redacted some. The plaintiff, the requester, went to court, and the trial court said that the agency had indeed complied with the Public Records Act, except for 2 email strings of approximately 20 sentences in total. And that was the only part that the trial court said needed to be disclosed. Well, then after that, the requester moved for the award of attorney's fees of $123,000, and the trial court awarded $71,000. The agency then appealed and said that the Public Records Act allows the award of attorney's fees if that case forced the agency to disclose records. In this case, the agency did disclose records, and it was not a matter of the lawsuit forcing the agency to disclose or to disclose a large number. And so the Court of Appeal ruled that, based on our previous case, that the circumstances did not give rise to the plaintiff obtaining records and that the records that were obtained through the court case were so minimal or insignificant that they did not justify the plaintiff being deemed to have prevailed and to have received the fees and costs. So as a result, the Court of Appeal said, because the records that were forced to be disclosed through the court case were insignificant in a very small portion, and that the agency had been cooperative in terms of disclosing all the records up to that point, that the requester did not, quote unquote, prevail in the Court of Appeal and was not entitled to the attorney's fees. So just something to keep in mind in terms of the public record, in terms of compliance with the PRA. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have any departmental reports today?
I don't see anybody jumping out of their seat to head to the podium, and I don't recall anybody telling me ahead of this time that they wanted to make a report. So
Okay, good.
I would say no, sir.
Thank you. All right, did want to recognize Director Grasha of Desert Water Agency in our audience today. Thanks for attending. But no public comments, huh? Okay, all right, fair enough. None today. At this time, the board will recess into closed session to consider most of the items on the agenda. We already said we're deleting all the Howard Jarvis ones. And then we will reconvene here to report back in open session. We're early. have any reportable actions from closed session, and with no further business, we are adjourned.